You're watching the Weiss channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about solving polynomial equations. Sounds much harder than it is. Really easy, okay? For example, x to the fifth plus 11x to the fourth plus 30x to the third equals 0. We're going to factor out x to the third and be left with x squared plus 11x plus 30. So you get x to the third equals 0, and x squared plus 11x plus 30 equals 0. This x to the third equals 0 means that x equals 0, right? Okay. So we're going to factor x squared plus 11x plus 30 to give us x plus 6, x plus 5 equals 0. So x equals negative 6 and x equals negative 5. And x equals 0. 3 answers. Technically, there's 5 answers because there's 3 zeros here. X equals 0 3 times. But we only need to write it once. Okay? Over here, when you start with a negative right there, that first negative right there in the problem, we're gonna pull that out first. Whenever you have a negative first, it's gonna make your life easier if you pull out the negative. Okay, and then what you have here is negative 1 equals 0. This is called garbage. You throw that away. So you're left with 3x to the third minus 4x plus 12, minus 4x squared plus 12x minus 16. We're going to factor by grouping, okay? What's common to these two guys? X squared. You're left with 3x minus 4. What's common to these two guys? 4. Well, you're left with 3x minus 4. When you do factor by grouping, these two are always going to be the same, always. So now what's common is the 3x minus 4, right? And you're left with x squared plus 4. So you have 3x minus 4 equals 0, or 3x equals 4. X equals 4 over 3. And you have x squared equals negative 4. Take the square root. And x equals positive 2i and negative 2i. Or you could write it as plus or minus 2i. Either way. Over here, I'm going to pull out 2x to the third first. It gives me 2x to the third times x to the third. Plus 2x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. You have 2x to the third equals 0. Divide by 2. You have x to the third equals 0, or x equals 0. Then we're going to factor by grouping with the other set. In the first group here, you have x squared times x plus 2. In the second group, you pull out a negative 2. You've got x plus 2 also. X plus 2 is common. You're left with x squared minus 2 equals 0. So x equals negative 2. And x squared equals 2, meaning x equals plus or minus square root of 2. Unless you'd rather write it as x equals square root of 2 and x equals negative square root of 2. Okay? There you go. 2x to the fourth minus 6x to the third plus 18x squared minus 54x equals 0. We're going to pull out 2x first. And that's going to give me 2x equals 0 and x equals 0, right? The other part, we're going to factor by grouping, pulling out x to the second. You're left with x minus 3. Over here, we pull out a 9. You're left with x minus 3. So you have x minus 3 times x squared plus 9 equals 0. So you get x equals 3. X squared equals negative 9, giving you x equals plus or minus 3i. Okay. Over here, x to the third minus 7x equals 6. I'm going to factor out an x, giving me x times x squared minus 7 equals 6. So x equals 6. All right, x equals 6. And x squared minus 7 equals 6. I add 7, I get 13. I take the square root, I get plus or minus square root of 13. You've been watching the Weiss channel.